right, so if you're watching, thanks for coming on. I'm David Oken. You can find me on Twitter at doken24. I am drinking a really, really delicious beer, by the way. I'm drinking a Flavor Country. This is the one I'm drinking, Flavor Country by Austin Beer Works. Local brewery based out of Austin, Texas. This is absolutely one of my favorite beers in the world to drink. So I'm going to have a nice laid back session. And let's go ahead and take a look at what this app does. So I'm constantly forgetting what the syntax is for working with Swift Package Manager, and I'm tired of having to remember it. So I made this little app that just taught me where I can go to make those strings that go in Swift Package Manager. So for example, what I mean by that, let me make another tab here. Okay, mic's a little bit low. All right, let me turn the gain up. I had that issue. How does that sound? Does that sound a little bit better now? And it's still coming in a little bit low. Thanks to I'm sorry, it must be, let me see who that is. Immortal Object. Well, Immortal Object, thank you very much for sound checking me. I appreciate it. While we're doing this, let me just go ahead and explain what this is. So, if you've worked with package managers before, Gilad, hey man, how are you? It's good to hear from you. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit. I'm trying to work out being able to do like dual streams and pair programming in the future. So I'll work on that in the future. But for now, let me just kind of dive into what I'm doing. I'm recording this, so we'll make content out of this. Yeah, man, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. Well, here's hoping that this is a fun one today. So if you go to work with the Swift Package Manager, and let me just use an example here. Does this have a package Swift? Okay. So if you're, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's just print it out. All right, so we're gonna go into look at package.swift, and if you see all the syntax here, this is the key thing that I'm wanting to work on. So this project I'm hoping does a lot more, but I think the next step is being able to figure out versions. And so my problem is when I'm working with Swift Package Manager, I can never remember the syntax for what this should be like. Like I pretty much have it memorized. Say dot package URL. Here's a URL, but then it's this up to next minor from up to next major syntax that I can just never remember for the life of me. So I wanted to make a little way to help with that. So the first step that I did, and I already use it. So the first thing that I did was let's say Slacken Swift, which is that tool that I made, and if you search for it, something. I have a breakpoint on my app. Yeah, run that. And so if you see, if you search for just an API, what it does is it queries the GitHub API, searches for GitHub projects that are similar to what you're working on, and I will just do that. And then what this does is it will make the version string for you. So you can click from, and if you've got say an exact version or a revision hash or something like that, you can pick the syntax. But let's say I want to pick up to next major of this tool 0.3.0. Then what I do is I've got this string right here that it just prints it out for me and gives me what the correct syntax is. And then I can copy that, and then I can go right into my package.url, and if I want to use that, I can go right there and copy it. Now, that's not what I'm going to do for that specific project, but that's just kind of what I'm trying to do. And the cool thing is this is really helpful, and I envision this eventually being something that just kind of helps you generate a package.swift file for you. But I think that it would be more useful if you knew what the actual tags were, because you can't be expected to always remember what all the versions are. And especially if you go to something like Swifty request, you go there, or even better actually, if you go to AF networking, which is funny to think about, but I guess it wouldn't be AF networking, it's Alamo Fire. I feel out of touch, and I'm having a beer, so I don't think this will be like a crazy stream, but we'll see. But anyway, so if you go to Alamo Fire, the idea is there's currently no way to tell you what versions you can work with. So it would be cool if there was a way to actually check in and see if you've got, see what versions you have to pick from. There's all sorts of different ways you can pick a range of, what versions you want to go to. So for instance, this is 3.2.0, and then you got 3.4.0. Yeah. No, wait, no, DLAD, who doesn't use tags or things like that? I'm not sure what you're talking about, but yeah, clarify if you don't mind. Anyway, but what this does is this shows you what the syntax is for this. And so I thought it would be useful if you actually had the list of versions that you had to pick from when you're making this helper. So I started working on this, and I figured I'd put this on a stream. Oh, Alamo Fire, AF Networking. No, people use those. I personally like to roll my own, but I think frameworks like that do a lot of good. And I actually think, this is just me personally, but I think frameworks like that do a lot of good because you don't have to constantly reinvent the wheel over and over again. I think Orta Thorax actually had a really good talk about, like, not invented here syndrome. It wasn't a talk, it was a blog post, but that sort of thing. So anyway, what I want to do is I want to basically be able to pull all the tags for a certain repo into this version. So when you see this here, you can see like either a drop-down list or a table view that you can just scroll through, and you can see all the versions you have for a particular API. So the first thing I did was, we'll go ahead and stop this, and let me just make this a little bit easier to read. I'll use presentation light. That is so bright, but that's probably a little bit easier to read. So what I started working on was, let me see here. Just a sec, I gotta kind of work around my little setup here. I've got a secret window I don't want anyone to see. So I've got a GitHub API call that I want to be able to call search for query results, and that returns you a list of repositories or GitHub errors. And it just uses URL session. I decided to just kind of roll my own, but then it makes heavy use of codable objects and gets that done. So the use of that API is such that, let me see if I can find that. Well, here, I can actually just control1 that guy who calls it viewcontroller.send. Okay, and so this sets that this is all searching, and then I'm basically saying, all right, github.search for whatever the query is, and then it's going to return me either repositories or an error. So we update our UI, and then we're going to see what we've got in terms of repositories. And also, this is the first ever Mac app that I've made, so I'm probably going to be tripping over myself as I go a lot with this, but I think that's kind of the fun part of working with this. So we'll see how that goes. Just a second here. Okay, so there's another API that we can call, and I want to basically be able to say something like GitHub, come on, there we go, GitHub dot get tags for a repository, and it would be ideal if you could get repository from what you get out of here. So I would like to be able to just make that call when you're at the package view controller. So we need to find where we go when that is made. So view did load, view will appear. Where are we setting our repository? View did load. Let's do it at view did appear. So we're gonna do view did appear. The reason we want view did appear is because we want the tags to, or no, I guess we could do view did load because we can just kind of load that in the background. But then what if the API call returns pretty quickly? Let's put it in view did appear for now just to make it work, and then we can always decide if we want to put it somewhere different. So let's make sure we're calling our super function, super view did appear. And like I said, ideally, I want to be able to set if let repository equals repository, because we're basically calling, we're saying that this is the screen that pops up after you've clicked on a repository. So we need to make sure that there is something passed in from the segue to this new app. So we're going to make sure that that's working. So I have to make sure that there's a repository there. So I'm going to say, instead of if let, I'm going to say guard let repository equals repository. I misspell this word so much time when I'm typing it. Else, and we'll just return if we're not doing anything with it. HQ Trivia is live if you guys want to play that. I'm sorry, not you guys, you all. If y'all want to play HQ Trivia instead of watching me, but appreciate you watching me. So we want to make sure that we have a repository, and ideally what we want to be able to do is say GitHub dot get tags for repository results. And then we can say that we've got releases, error in, and I'm already not liking the nomenclature of this because I've got repository and releases and tags. So I want to change this function name real quick. So I'm going to say get releases, especially because the codable object around this that I'm working with is a release anyway. So we'll get to that in a second. But once we get to our package view controller, yeah, it would be nice to just say GitHub. That's not what it's supposed to be. Let's build that one more time. It'll error on us. Yep. Okay, so GitHub, get releases for repository. And then we're going to have an array that we'll call releases. That's not what I wanted. Or an error. Okay. So what this is doing is basically we're saying, okay, when we get our releases, then we want to load this in the UI somewhere. And this is as simple as I want the interface call to be, because it shouldn't be any gobbledygook. It's just as simple as can be. I say, get me releases. I'm not needing to manage a session here because I'm using a public API. And we're dealing with open source repositories, so we shouldn't have to worry about that. But we want to just make sure that we're getting whatever releases are associated with the repository. So why don't we test this and just see if we can print out some data, and like, let's just write what it should be. You know, it's like test-driven development without actually writing the test. But let's make it do what it should do and then write the code on the back end to make that actually work. So I'm going to say, once I've got my list of releases, I get it, HQ, you're live. You're a big deal. You have way more people viewing you than I do. Once we've got this, so we want to be able to say, get releases for, and then I want to say print releases. For now, we just want to be if let releases equals releases. We'll just say print releases, and we should be able to get, you know, a printout of all of those different objects and everything. I haven't yet decided what the UI should look like. I'm thinking what we should do is, I wonder if there's like a built-in way. So let me just search for Kitura just so we have something to pull up here. So I'm going to pull this up, and I'm thinking that we can expand some space right in here, and then just show, I wonder what would be a good way to do this. We're not, this needs to be smooth, but not like, you know, expert level. I'm thinking maybe just a simple table view that you can scroll through of all the different versions, but we need to make it, I wonder how easy that is to do with horizontal stuff. Let's just print out a label for now. Yeah, let's just see if we can print, well, let's just print the statement first. But I'm thinking that's the space that it's going to go. So let's get this to work first. So we're going to go into our get releases function. And what we need to do is we need to do this. So some work that I've already done is I've already made a way to be able to construct a release request, which was going to use URL components to make sure that we're getting things correctly. The only two parameters, as far as I know, are the owner of the repo and the repo name itself. And then you specify the tags. So for example, if I go to, sorry, not that. So let's open up a browser page, which, by the way, if you're not using Firefox, you're using the wrong browser. Sorry if anybody from Safari team is watching this. That's not what we wanted to do. Let's put that in there, and we'll approximate. Okay, so. Sorry if somebody doesn't like Firefox. I appreciate that I have a fan. Thank you, DokenFan99. My brand is strong. Firefox, they've done a lot of work. I just got so tired of using Chrome and it heats up my computer. So let's go into what that would look like. So if I do api.github.com/ and then what was that thing? So we want to search repository. No, sorry, it's API's GitHub. So let's copy that string. And let's see if I can figure out what to make that look like. So for the repos, we'll just use mine. I'll just use doken1 is my GitHub name. And let's just go with Lumina. That's another repo that I manage frequently. All right, so cool. No, there we go. Okay. All right, so this is looking pretty good. That's pretty printed. I like that. This is cool. Firefox has this stuff built in for working with JSON. It's quite nice, but we'll just look at this raw data. So this is good because I've got all the names of my repos right now. And right now, all I need is those names. So let's see if I can get those in codable objects. I need to do some codable magic to get the SHA and the commit hash and the URL out of it. I need to be able to do that and pull those out from like the nested object in codable. And I want one nice clean object. So let's just make this work first. And let's just see if we can get some tags. So we've proven that it works in a web browser. We don't need an auth token for it or anything, but let's just get this to work and let's go from there. Okay, so first thing we do is make sure that we get a request. So guard let request equals construct release request from the repository. Again, we're passing in a repository here, so we should be able to just pass that in. Guard let request construct release request else, and then I'm going to say return. So this is basically saying if we can't return, get something out of this release request, because you're seeing here that this is returning an optional URL request. This means if it returns nil, I'm not going to get anything useful out of this. So I need to be able to handle that error. So I'm going to say if we don't get something here and we guard against an error here, I'm going to say return results nil for the release, and I'll say for the error, I'm going to say something like bad repository. We'll just leave it at that for now. Again, let's just make this work. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say let task equals URL session shared data task with URL request, and that completion handler, it's going to give me data, response, and an error. All right, and then I need to resume the task after the fact. So I'm going to say task.resume. Cool, so at least we're running this now. And then how did I handle this? And this is probably due for a factory method soon, but for now I just want to walk through it because this is new material for Twitch. So let's go on here, and what I'm going to do is let's see if we've got an error first. So if let error equals error, dispatch queue main async, and I'm going to return my results nil, and I'm going to explain this in just a second what I've done. Other, and I'm going to pass in the error localized description. So if you're watching and you're not sure what this dispatch queue thing is whenever you're making a call using URL session to get data from like outside the computer, it's happening on a different thread, on a background thread, and we all know that the main thread has to do with making sure the UI is correct. So I want to make sure that I synchronize to that main queue using libdispatch and return that error here appropriately. So that's going to be fine. And then I'm going to say, all right, what did I do next? Let's see if I can just copy and paste this, which, nope, you know what? I'm not going to copy and paste it because you should not copy and paste code. Lord knows we all do it, but let's actually write this out the right way. So I'm going to say if let HTTP response equals response downcast optionally as HTTP URL response, and HTTP response.status code is not equal to 200, then I'm going to return this. And this one I can copy and paste because this is literally the same thing. We're basically saying, so I could have copied and pasted that, but it's good that I wrote it out because I'm saying, okay, in this URL response object, we've got a couple of different things going around there, and one of them is an HTTP URL response, which gives us a nice, easy object to look at with things like status codes that you're used to seeing in HTTP. I don't know why I can't see it there. There we go. And with things like that, you know, you've got status code, HTTP versions, header fields, easy stuff to work with. So I want to parse that out so I can work with that. So I'm saying, if I can get this response parsed out of the URL response and the status code for my request is not 200, then I'm in good shape. Otherwise, I need to bail and say I've got an error. So if we're getting here, if we're at this line, then we're still in good shape. And so now what I want to say is if let data equals data. Then I'm going to say let's see, so let's look at this data again. This is just an array of potential objects, so we don't need to use the GitHub response type that I made earlier. So let's just see if we can get an array of objects that we're looking for here. So what have I worked with already? Var name string. Let's make those optional for now. I should be able to get it. We'll figure out what that error is about in just a second. Yeah, it's about, I figured that. All right, so now I'm going to say let release releases. Actually, let's see if we can just do this in one line. We're going to say try JSON decoder, and we're just going to make that one on the fly. Decode, and then the type is going to be release dot self. We'll make sure we're specifying an array because remember we're expecting multiple pieces of data here from data. And I think that should, in theory, actually be what I need if that works. So then I'm going to say, once I've got that, and remember we're marking it with an optional, so this might fail. We don't need to catch this with a catch block or anything. But what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to say, all right, return results. And we can pass in releases and nil for no error. So I actually have a hunch this might work. Let's see how this goes. So what I'm expecting to happen, if I've done this right so far, is when the view appears of having like searched for a specific repo, it should call this code. So we'll put a breakpoint here, and then it should call get releases, which should pass this down. And let's look at how that request is made down at the bottom here. So let's put a breakpoint here, and let's actually study how this all works. So I'm going to run this, and let's see how we're doing. Okay, so we'll do Lumina one more time, just because that's a repo I'm familiar with. 605 stars, what? And we'll go in here and let's see how this works. All right, so it's calling it, and the repository, does it have it right? It has it, great, that's awesome. And there, I made two more properties, but let's see if this works now. So I'm gonna go to the next thing, and sure enough, it's in releases. Great, so now let's see if we can get those two things out. So I've got the repo name perfect and the owner name perfect. So what I was able to do, this was kind of hacky, but I did get it to work. So whatever. In the repository object that I have, these are names that map directly. So these are basically just stored properties that map directly with these coding keys to actual 605 stars. Yeah, these actually map to different responses in the API for what I'm searching for. But these two properties, name and owner, because you can see here that for that repository, the name is just the owner slash the library, which this makes sense because that's what you want to show when you're searching for this. But what I did was I just said, all right, to get these computed properties, which is the name and the owner, create an array separating by this slash. And then for the name of the repo, it should be the last component there, and then the first component should be the owner. So a little hacky, but so far we seem to be working. And let's see what we're doing. So scheme is HTTPS, yeah, components path. Did the path work right? PO path, that's not what I wanted. And actually, I just heard about this new V path. No, V components path. Okay, V components. That doesn't help me. Okay, well, I thought that somebody on Twitter said something about V being a really good LLDB command for printing out new stuff. I am disappointed, basically. But oh well, we've got our path. We've proven that out. Let's make sure that we've got the URL. We've got our request. All right, so now let's give this a try here. So we've got our request. See, that looks cool, and that's good that it gives us some memory addresses, but that's not quite what we're looking for. So let's print out a couple things about our request and see if we're doing right so far. That's much better. Okay, so that request looks correct. I mean, at least the URL does. And since it's a get, if I copy and paste that, cool. So that's the same thing. You're probably thinking, why did I go through so much work to make a URL? I work for IBM. It's an enterprise company, so I have to make sure I do everything like 5 times perfectly. So that's kind of why. I'm just kidding. But URL components is a smart way, especially when you're working with URLs. You have no idea how many things can go awry, so it's good to double check. Timeout interval looks good. Get, we don't have any headers. Yeah, that all looks good. Okay, so now let's actually see if we can get something from that. So we're going to return that, and let's see, what did I get? So I got some data. I didn't get an error, so far so good. The HTTP response is friendly. Here's the moment of truth. What do we got? Oh yeah, what do we have here? Nice. Okay, that's cool. We got some. Now this is like the most. It's basic, but it's still cool. You gotta let the small stuff excite you. So we're in pretty good shape for being able to get some version strings here, and that means that we nailed it on the first try, which is great. So that means that now we should just print out all these different releases, which is great. That's really cool. So now let's see if it works for something else. Let's take off all our breakpoints, and we should see basically printed out to the console a bunch of releases for a repository that I'm just going to not know anything off the top of my head about that. Yeah, so we've got that. Let's go back to our actual app. And you know what? Let's try Vapor. Sorry, Chris Bailey, if you're watching this. All right, let's see how many versions we've got. Hey, look at that. All the versions printed out perfectly, and you know it worked as we could expect it to. So that's good. So we've got a lot of different release names here to work with, but these are releases that I would want to put in the UI here. So I'm not going to say UI is easy work. It's not, but to me, the hard stuff is done because now I've got all the data that I need. But there is one more thing I'd like to do in terms of getting that stuff from Codable. So we're going to try, you're going to notice here. So if we go, what I really want is I want to get this commit hash. If you're wondering what a commit hash is, this is simply just a unique identifier to refer to this commit. And there's, ideally there's no way that any other commit in the world on any piece of software could ever have this commit hash. So that's just a way to easily identify it. So that's one way to check it. And then this URL would be good. So like if I copy this URL, and I'm just trying to think in terms of what I might want to do with this in the future. So if I go to this URL, this is going to show me, again, it's going to show me the commit hash, information about it, what the message is. And it's funny because I made this release yesterday, but this is interesting. There's a lot of different stuff I could do with this. So let's see if I can figure this out. Just a second here. So what I'm doing right now is I am pulling up, Paul Hudson has a really great cheat sheet on using Codable. And if you're thinking, why am I resorting to using a cheat sheet for Codable? We are literally making a cheat sheet for package.swift. So do not criticize me. If you're a developer, it's really good to make like tools that basically help you kind of cheat. I don't know if cheat's the right vernacular for that, but stuff that just makes it easy. Anyway, Paul wrote a really, really good cheat sheet on Codable. It's in the book that Chris and I wrote, we wrote a whole chapter on Codable, and I gotta say I leaned heavily on this when I was writing that chapter. So thank you, Paul, for making this. I appreciate it. Let's see if we can figure out. So I know that we need to get nested stuff, and you had one specific example related to that. So let's do it the hard way since this is open source, and I want to try to show off a little bit. So let's see if we can get it to work. By the way, for those of you watching, I am having a beer, and I'm having a really good local beer. I'm having Austin Beer Works Flavor Country. It's one of my favorite beers. I'm not a beer snob by any stretch of the imagination. I got some Modelo and Miller Lite in my fridge as well, but I wanted to go for this one first because it's tasty. Okay, so first things first is we've got, this is the perfect example because he's got a node that says name, first name Taylor, last name Swift. Of course, Taylor Swift is involved in a Swift example. My girlfriend would be proud if she knew that I was live streaming. My girlfriend's she's at a bachelorette party down in Corpus Christi, and I'm like, I guess I'll write code on Saturday. That's what I'm doing with my weekend. Help me. Very tired though. So, if you're Doken Fan 99, I appreciate. I don't know if you're talking about ads, like having to watch ads during the show, but I think the way Twitch works is if you want there to be less ads during my stream, one thing you can do is tell more people to follow me. And then what will happen is I'll hopefully get to an affiliate where I have less ads while people are watching me. So please, if you can get involved with that, that'd be cool. Nonetheless, so what we need to figure out is how can I get the data in these nested nodes here into a social beer ads. Okay, yes, this wonderful. By the way, the koozie brought to you by Realm. I love Realm. Okay, so let's work with this and let's see if we can get this going. So I want to get this nested data out, and as you can see here, let me make this a little bit bigger so you can read this. The name was easy to get, but I want to get the SHA and the URL as an object because I want to be able to say. With this object, I want to be able to simply say, let me go over to it here. So I want to be able to say, on a release, you've got a name, a SHA, and a URL. And I want to be able to just say, those are right there. That's all we need right there. So that's all we need to do. So let's go ahead and work with that. So I know I had made some progress where I was like, encoding keys. And then let's try making, I think what we need to do is make, here, I'm going to bring this a little bit closer so I'm not constantly swiping ahead. By the way, if you're not using full screen on Mac, my God, get on board. It's awesome. So I think maybe the next enum goes inside name. I know we've got, let's see here. Commit coding keys. Now the easy, let's do this the easy way first. Because I want to show you that there is a way to do this, and I don't want to get too crazy about it. So let's make a struct inside this that just says release commit, which is also codable. It's a little bit hacky, but it works to be able to nest objects like this. So let me just show you how this works. What you could do is then you could say, all right, a release commit is going to have a SHA and a URL. So that var SHA would be a string. And that var URL would also be a string. And then what we can say is we can say var commit is the type release commit. Now, in theory, this should work. And so let's actually test this, because now, since these names are mapping right, we should be able to get this out just fine. So let's test that, and let's see if we get what we want out of this. So I need to turn on breakpoints. Let's disable everything and let's just get all the way to that point. And again, by doing this, we should have everything we need. Let's find out. Okay, so we're gonna search for Lumina again. We'll click that. We're gonna get that, cool. So if we go into these releases here, you're gonna see that I've got name, commit, and if I look at this commit, see, there we go. So it's mapped it nicely. And it's cool to be able to go into my, I have a commit object with a SHA and a URL in it, but I really want this SHA to be exported and put out at the top level. I don't want there to be a nested object. Obviously, there's a way to do this, and it's with coding keys, and then that's kind of where I have to follow along with this little cheat sheet here. So let's go ahead and see if we can figure out how to do this. And we're gonna have to use decoder containers and things like that, but we can obviously figure this out. So inside name, we've got a key here. So we're gonna put, okay, so good that worked. But let's go ahead and get that data out. I'm wondering if maybe it's more worth it to do the UI work and actually get this stuff to work, because then I can actually release it. Let's do that. For now, because we know it works, let's just go with this. That way I can at least, ship the object, and then I can ship the new version of the app tonight. Okay, I'm gonna open up my storyboard, which if you are not liking my choice in working with UI, I apologize. But we want to go ahead and work with this anyway. So I'm gonna make that a little bit down. And sure enough, because I've used auto layout, I've got enough space for me right there. And the buttons will just refactor. So let's see real quick how that goes. I'm not yet ready for marzipan. I appreciate that, but I'm not quite ready for marzipan. All right, so if we search, let's just search Katura. We'll click that, and sure enough, okay, so we've got all that space. That's real good. So we want to basically put everything in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make for now, I'm just going to make a label that shows it off, because again, I just need to have like a real quick visual representation of it, and maybe I can scroll through it. So let's see if there's something like a text view that I can put in there. So, so weird. I'm so used to having like over on the right side, there used to be a panel for all the UI components. It's weird that it's gone. Text, multi-line, scrollable text view. That is exactly my jam right now. Okay, that's what I want. Yeah, that's the stuff. Okay, I want to center it. So come on, there we go. And I want to, let's make this a little bit bigger, because I anticipate this could be potentially a lot. All right, so we'll put that there. And let's align that there. We'll align that there. And if working with this is as simple as I think it is, let's first just align this to everything. So I think it's just going to That should work, yeah. I've got a lot. Ah, son of a. Okay, let's see if I can at least get this kind of working. Let's not worry about too many auto layout issues. Shift Command L to open object menu. Thank you, DokenFan99. You are a saint. I appreciate that. I'm gonna remember that. Shift Command L. That's awesome. Okay, good to know. I don't work with UI elements very much anymore. I do a lot of like Swift on the server and server side stuff. So working with UI is not something I'm used to anymore. But thank you for the tip. I appreciate that. So that's all constrained now. Let's just put some sample text in there to see how it looks when we test it. Is there a way to put some text in there easily? Or am I going to have to wire this guy up? Yeah, I will. Okay, that's fine. So let's go to Package View Controller. And I want to, let's see, I've got a lot of different UI components here. Package string results, and I'm going to say IB outlet. Come on, autocomplete. Private var, releases result. Let's just call it that for now. And what type of object was that? Let's see if we can find it here. NS, was it NS scroll view? NS scroll view, okay, cool. So that's gonna be an NS scroll view. We'll make it optional. We're gonna go back over to our storyboard. It should show right up in our, come on. It's in there somewhere, I'm sure. There we go. Releases result. Sweet. Okay, so we've wired that up. And ideally what I'd like to do, let's just see if this works real quick. This would be crazy if it just worked, right? That should bill at least. We've got some warnings up here, but we can figure out what these warnings are in just a second. So what I want to do is I want to say, all right, right now we're just printing it. So print releases. So I want to basically construct a string and print it. So I'm going to say let release string equal versions space, and then for version in, or for release in releases, release string append, and then we're gonna say we're gonna say release. We need to actually print the object in there, so release dot name, and then space. And we'll worry about trimming off the end of that in just a second, but that should, oh, why can't I use a mutating one? Let to var, I gotta make this a var. There we go. Print that, and then I'm gonna say, so in theory, that should just, I should just be able to print that. So what did I call that one? It was releases result, releases result text. Okay, so let's look at that API. I've never used NS scroll view before. So let's see how I would put text in there. So I'm gonna just command click on the name of that type there. And again, I just wanna put text in there. So is there a way to just put text into an NS scroll view? Let's see here. Also, if you're not using DuckDuckGo, you need to be. You don't need Google. No, not NS collection view. I don't need, watch the tag. Okay. So I thought that's what that was gonna give me. Shift Command L to pull that up. Now, hold on a second. Wait, why is it not giving me my objects now? So Shift Command L, and it's giving me snippets, which is good to know I've got snippets, but I want to see, I need to be in my storyboard. That's why. Shift Command L. Scrollable text view. Scrollable text view. Yeah, thank you, DokenFan99. I appreciate that. AppKit scrollable text view example. I have no shame about how often. Okay, I got a lot of. Let's see. So again, right now I just want to load text and just get it to work so that at least I have a functional tool that I can use. I think this will be helpful to have. Do I need to make it an NS text view? Let's see. NS text view. Does it like that? Still likes that. So let's see. Let's see here. Receiver's text storage object. Receiver's text container. Text dot. Represented as an array of words. So let's say NS text view example. No, not C#. Okay, append. Here we go. Append to text view. NS attributed string. Append to my text view. Okay, so this is awesome. I'm using an Objective-C example to see that here. That's okay. Self scroll to end a document. Okay, so like self.text storage, append attributed string. Let's just see if release string will work. Is there any reason it won't? Something. NS attributed string. There's got to be just a way to pass. Yes, sweet. Release string. Okay, this is hacky as all hell. Come on. Self releases result. Oh, I'm in a closure. That's right. Okay. Excellent, excellent. Let's see here. Oh, this would be so cool if this just worked. Lumina. Something didn't like something. Okay, I think it's because I changed the type on it. NS scroll view due to uncaught exception. Yeah, I knew I was gonna mess up somewhere. Let's see what's going on here. Text storage dot mutable string. Let's try that. Self releases results text storage mutable string equals release string. I'm done to try that. It doesn't like it. What is the deal here? Insert. That's gross. Let's try it though. Let's see what happens. Something's mutable string is a get only property. Okay, I kind of anticipated that. But wanted to try it anyway. Thank you for the help, DokenFan99. Let's go back to our Googling here. There's got to be a way. There's got to be a way. Let's see. Self text view. Text view. Okay, so let's make it back to it is an NS text view. Set. Is there a way to say set text? Set text color. Mutable string set string. Okay. Self releases. This is such a janky API to work with. No wonder Marzipan's becoming a thing. Does that work? It works. Wow, I can't believe it builds. Okay, I am a full believer in Marzipan now. And oh, we've got that nasty. Okay, no, I can't live with myself like that. Hold on. Okay, that's much better. I was going crazy. All right, let's see if this works. It's AppKit, yeah. Hey, props to, like, here's the thing. I'm not gonna be the guy that complains about things that have been made because look, somebody made them. Someone took the time to actually go through it. What's going on here? All right. Hi, this is David Oak, and welcome to my stream about loading text into a label. Let's see what we've got here. We're hacking this even further. I know what I'm doing. I'm not messing with these text views or anything. Let's delete this. Let's delete that. And Shift-Command-L, my handy new command for doing that. Multi-line label. That's what that's what I want. Let's do that. Yeah. All right, we're gonna put that there. We're gonna put that there, more or less. We'll handle that one right there. That one right there. Okay, now let's get rid of a couple things. I just have Stockholm Syndrome about... Oh, it cleaned it up for me. Thank you very much. Okay. Is it an NS label? I can't remember. AppKit's so weird, y'all. It's just different. I mean, I can appreciate it. It's just different. But it's definitely a strange one. Okay, so what's the type here? NS text field. Okay, that's what we want. So let's go to, we're gonna make that NS text field. Let's make sure that we drag releases result. And then what semantics do we have on UI? Okay, we're gonna center it. Layout wraps, yep. Line break, word wrap, we want that for sure. And I think that's all we really need. Let's get it to work first. So, okay, so we've wired that up. Self releases results. This is probably gonna complain now, yep. Self releases results. I've obviously done this before, so I just need to see adapt package string update. So I just have to go through package results string value. Okay, so yeah, that's another one of those weird things we have to say that it's the string value. So string value equals release string. And in theory, it's interesting how getting the API to work was just like a super easy thing to do, and this is a little bit more difficult, but let's see. I have a funny feeling this is gonna work. Hey, look at that. We've got all the different versions there. Okay, cool. So good news, it works. That's really, really awesome. Let's do just a little bit of formatting around that just so we can get this done. And then let's go ahead and ship this and tell people where this is. So we're gonna go here. This is already version 0.2. Let's make it 0.3 just to set that up. I want to also get status. Okay, so I've changed a lot of things. So I'm going to say git checkout b add versions. Okay, cool. And let's just take a look. Okay, so we got a couple things to commit. Let's go ahead and clean up the end of that string. So I always forget Swift string delete last two characters. Again, this should be easy. Drop last. I'm just going to drop the last two. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say release string, and then I'm going to say release string, drop last, release string. This is as hacky as can be, but let's see if it works. We can probably just call it twice. Let final. We just want to wrap that in a string. That should be much nicer. Cool. Okay. So now let's see if this gives us something nice. So let's run that one more time. Lumina. So all we're doing is want to make sure that we got rid of the comma and the space at the very end. Yeah, very good. So that's what we want. I'm sure that this could look nicer, but again, I'm just in need of a tool that works. So if we try Kitura, does that work? Yeah, that gives me, I wonder what's going on there. It's only given me X-Many. I know there's more versions of Kitura than that too. I wonder what that deal is. Let's take a look at that. So, for example, if I go to IBM-Swift, I bet it's paginated. I bet that's what it is. Pretty sure anyway. All right, so let's just make it a little bit smaller. I bet this is just the top 30. Yep, it's paginated. Okay. So we're not going to go through that right now because this gives me some of the latest versions to use, and I can make that always something that I can change. But let's see here. Let's just get this to work right now. Again, this gives me what I need, but I will definitely have to work this out as I go. So I know that there's GitHub API, get tags. I had this earlier. References, there's overview, activities, GitHub, API, get releases. Releases, yeah, that's what I want. List releases, more or less. I mean, this is, I just want to get tags. See, let's get, there we go, this is the one. All right, so in that ooh, interesting. So there might be in this response. So okay, so I'm comfortable with what we've made tonight, but I am curious. I want to look in the response and see what exactly it is that I get that shows me. Okay, so this is telling me this is what the next page would be and what the last page would be. So this tells me how many times this is paginated so that I know what to get through. So let's see if we can look at the response here. So let's go into GitHub. I will fix this later. I've been streaming for almost an hour and I'm tired. It's Saturday and I want another beer. I'm gonna go get another beer actually. Give me just a second. All right, that wasn't hard. So this time, that was Flavor Country, very good beer by Austin Beer Works. I am now drinking from Independence Brewing Company, something called the Native Texan. This was kind of a real hoppy IPA. I almost called it API. You get the two mixed up. This is a Pilsner, nice, smooth, very drinkable, very delicious. The perils of live streaming when a beer blows up on you. Okay. So, what we want to do is, before we ship this release of this tool that we've made, everybody say hi to, hi Penny. Penny, say hi. You're on the internet. There's 3 people that know who you are now. This is Penelope June, the dog, Penny for short, and she's a very good girl, and she's been lazy as all hell all day long, but she's been very good. As you can tell, she's now sank back onto the couch. Okay, let's look at this actual response here. So I want to break right there. And we want to search for Kitura, something that has a lot of releases. Okay, so we're on this data. Now I want to print out a string data with data encoding UTF-8. All right, so this is just all of the data in that response. But I want to look in this URL response. Let's print out the URL response here. Okay, so this is going to show us some of the headers that we have. Status 304 not modified. There we go. So in this header, interesting. So this tells me, so you can see here, for this repository. So if I do, let's just go into this. Okay, so that's what it is. So yeah, this is going to tell me what the last one is. So if I go to this, so this is showing me, yeah, this makes sense. So what this means is in a future version of this, what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to find out, get to that URL, and then request all of them, collect all of the releases from all of them, and then keep going. But I have to decide what the last one is. So let me see if I just do page 1. That's the first one. Yep, page 2, page 3. Yeah, so programmatically what I need to do is I need to figure out what the last one is and iterate through these URLs and call the GitHub API enough times so that I can get all the releases, and then that's going to be all my tags. Right now I'm only getting up to 30. I wonder if there's a way to turn that pagination off. If there's like a query parameter I can give it. Probably not, but that's fine. What we can do now is we can simply release this because I'm comfortable with this for now. So let's go to storyboard. And let's make the text here a little bit bigger. Let's use, regular, and we'll just make it a little bit bigger. Let's see how that looks. All right, so we're just gonna do Lumina as a search now. We're searching for that. We've got this tool. Cool, that works. So again, this is just showing me the different versions that I have. So this means that now, let's say I want, the latest version, I can just say 1.4.0, and I can actually look at the different versions that I have right here. And I've got, I can just copy it, and then sure enough, I can just use that string. So cool. So we're in pretty good working shape. I'm comfortable calling this like, a shipped tool. We're still shipping 0 releases here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually push this up, and I would like somebody who's watching the stream to actually handle the pull request. So take a peek at it and just comment on it or do something like that. But let's go ahead and ship this. So we're here. Let's take a look at our Git status. Okay, one thing I definitely want to do is I thought I was getting rid of DS Store everywhere. Apparently I was not. This should make that fixed. Yep, we're good. Okay, so now we've got, let's see, Git status. That's what we're going to be adding. And then I'm going to say git commit S, signed off by David Oken. Very good. I'm going to say now shows you version numbers for the library you are looking for. And then we're going to say git push origin add versions because we're doing upstream to a new branch. Great. And I'm going to make a pull request. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this in the, I'm going to drop the link in my, here, one second. I'm going to add this up here. So let me drag this. I have another, believe it or not, I have another browser so I can do this. If you want to go to the repo and if you want to give it a star or something, it's doken1/Swift package manager helper, and I'll post the link in the chat if anyone wants to go take a peek at it. Let's see here. So version numbers now shows you library version numbers that you are looking for. So I'm going to create that pull request. And this is the official first pull request of this. So twitch.tv. I'm going to log into my own Twitch and post this in my own chat. Okay, so basically, if you're just watching this, so what we've been able to do on this stream is we've been able to. Thank you. I'm glad you like the new profile pic. I've actually got to change it on my Twitch profile, but we'll fix that. Anyway, so what we did was we went ahead and we made it so that we've got this tool where if you're building a manifest for Swift Package Manager, you want to have an easy way to get what that version number is going to look like and what that string is going to look like. So we went ahead and built. So whenever you're searching for a repository, it just shows you what different versions numbers are that you've got instead of just making you guess what they are. We've added that to be automatically. I think in another stream that we have, we can actually paginate that request so we can get all the different ones instead of just the top few. So we want to make sure that we're looking at what we need. And yeah, we've got a pull request open. So please feel free to go take a look at this pull request. Make comments on it if you want to. I'm sure there's plenty of things that we could do a lot better, but I mean, again, this is just working and this is just kind of a fun little side project. I'm happy to make this better in the future, but I'm going to go ahead and cut off the stream now. I'd appreciate if people get some comments on this, but thank you so much for watching. Thanks for tuning in to whoever came on, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.